Hello, and welcome to the Creative Astrology Podcast. My name is Vanessa Castro. I'm the astrologer behind Creative Astrology, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the new moon in Aries, which is tomorrow morning. And yeah, let's dive in. I hope you enjoy. Hello. How are you? I hope you are feeling the energy of springtime, the energy of Aries. So we're going to talk about things that have been unfolding in Aries. And I just want you to know that this month of April 2026 really completely gets us out of the previous stories that were unfolding, the previous stories that we have existed in or been living in for quite a few years now. So one timeline that I would like to invite you to think about is the year 2018. What was happening then? That was a year that we had two separate things happen in the sign of Aries. One of them was that we had one planet leave the sign of Aries and enter Taurus, and we had another planet leave Pisces and enter Aries. So it was an important shift. Chiron is kind of like, it's not an official planet in the solar system, but I use it a lot. I know that a lot of astrologers do as well, because it's so significant when it comes to something that we are healing from, or an area of life or a theme in our life that we are healing. And this process of healing, it actually takes us through a process of learning and trying a lot of things in order to heal. It represents an area that feels sensitive for that time. And in our natal chart, it's just like a sensitive area or theme or topic in our life all the time. But when Chiron is like real life, real time, I mean Chiron moving through the zodiac, it is activating a different theme of healing and sensitivity, or even wounding. Chiron entered Aries, and at a very similar moment in time, Uranus was departing from Aries and going into Taurus. And those two are again doing something very similar. Chiron is about to leave Aries and go into Taurus, while Uranus is very close to leaving Taurus and going into the next sign, which is Gemini. The previous cycle of Uranus was through Aries. I think it was between 2010 and 2018. And the influence of Uranus shakes things up. So there's a lot of experimentation. There's a lot of trying something completely different. So when we talk about Aries, we are referring to the very, very beginning of the zodiac. This is the first sign, and as such, it represents birth. It represents the desire and will to live. It represents survival, and it represents clarity as well. Because when we are in touch with that initial primal desire to live, we don't just know that in an intellectual level. We understand it as who we are. We understand that specific and particular desire for life as our identity, as for life in a certain way, for life in specifically in certain things that we just like to do, things that just like make surviving life worth it, that make fighting for our life worth it. It's not so much of a romantic end of life view of like, oh, the people I love, I have to survive because otherwise it's not so much about them. It's about the part in that end of life vision that has to do with you, that has to do with what you don't want to miss from this life. That's why Aries is rushed. Aries is in a hurry to get that done. Not only because it's frantic like that, not just because Aries has that energy for no reason, but because perhaps with the knowing of the being not in a physical body, which is the step right before life begins, right? Which we can relate to Pisces and that like shapelessness of that water sign, which simultaneously is the end, and it's both the end and the beginning, and the beginning being as a dream first, but then in Aries it bursts into life. And perhaps is that unconscious memory of a soul of having been without a body that causes this early life urgency, right? This like, this feeling of kids that everything is so slow, it makes me think of that. Or the clarity that Aries represents is also because like, I don't have time to waste. Like, life is fragile too, like, and so it represents the courage to go for it, and to be real with ourselves, and just nothing else mattering, just this is the reason I'm alive, and therefore I'm going for it. And of course, that's just one of the 12 signs of the zodiac, right? That's not everything, but that's Aries. And through the time, if you remember the time between 2010 and then up until 2018, Uranus was in Aries, and Uranus is the mad scientist that will just get out of the boxes. So it might have been like an experimental time. For our sense of identity. And what's interesting about astrology and the planets and everything is that we go through these like processes and come out with a result, and the processes of Uranus like give us a number of like wild experiences, which then give us like a more expanded sense of freedom in that theme and area of our life in particular, because we dared to get out of the box and try things, or there were unexpected or there were unexpected situations that just happened, right? But you'll be able to like connect this a lot more to your chart to your life, if you connect it to your chart. So locate the Aries area of your chart. And so after Uranus does its experiments in terms of like, who am I? What do I really want? And particularly, again, in that area, when I say area, I mean house in your astrology chart. Then comes Chiron to kind of like soften the rough edges, or to support our process of recovery after all of that experimenting, and helping us soften into the healing process. No longer an experimental identity, but now like almost refining that, and getting maybe much more into the insecurities behind, or the fears that appeared behind these experiments. And so the reason I'm talking so much about this is because the new moon is conjunct Chiron at the end of Aries, which means that this new beginning is 100% connected to this entire process. It's literally been 16 years of really discovering who we really are, which is kind of crazy. Aries is very individual. It's very much about our identity. But we identify as in so many layers. Like there's so many parts of us that connect to our identity. There's so many pieces of the puzzle that we as an individual, like we associate ourselves with certain cultures, or think thoughts and beliefs, and we make those things that we agree with be our identity. But then that identity is then externally determined. So this entire process, like the more I think about it, I'm just like really in awe, because one thing after another, we've been having these like processes through Aries. And it's so wild to me because, when I was describing Aries to you, I was talking about what you want, what your desire to live. And I was referring to birth and an infant. We're not in the area of ideologies and culture. We're not there, but we do connect to all of that. But this Aries energy, what the process has been trying to get us to is to really connect to our truth, like in spite of all of that, especially during that time of Uranus in Aries between 2010 and 2018. Because that time of Uranus in this sign would have had a lot to do with shaking the norm in that area, and just in order to create space. And then comes Chiron in 2018. Up until now, it's still there, but it will leave this year. It will start to leave Aries this year. But it comes Chiron right after Uranus, and it starts piecing together the parts that survived the Uranus experimentation. And so we've been shaken internally. We've been like kind of like vulnerable internally in determining who am I really and what do I really want. And a lot of us have just sat with the question almost like, not internally, not making too many external decisions about it, or just like sitting in discomfort about it, or letting this cause a bit of like instability in our connections with others, or maybe the instability and the changes in our relationship have just like had inevitably to do with these transformations, or these like re-understandings of why am I even alive? because that is the core essence of Aries. And now, I know I've been talking about the past a lot, but now, let's get now to 2026. Like, we are here in 2026 in this new moon in Aries. And what happens is that we now have 2 other planets in Aries, which got into Aries for the first time last year, but now are there definitely for all the years that are ahead of their cycles. In the case of Neptune, we have 13 more years of Neptune in Aries. And in the case of Saturn, it's only a couple more years. But what this new moon now has, oh my God, I'm having such a hard time talking. This new moon in Aries now has so much focus in the same topic, of like, why am I even alive? What do I want from life? Who am I? Who am I really? Despite everything. What lives in my essence, like my primordial internal fire to live, to survive, and to thrive. Where does that courage? What gives me like the courage to face my fears over and over again? Because that is just something that you cannot just invent. That is something to discover. And the entire time of Uranus through Aries, 2010, 2018, then Chiron comes in 2018. Now, 2025, 2026, Neptune and Saturn come in. And what are they saying? Neptune is saying, whatever left of that self-invented identity that you thought was real, but that wasn't in actual alignment with your inner fire, needs to be dissolved. Right? And you are allowed to dissolve if that which is crystallized isn't true. And then Saturn, on the other hand, is saying, okay, what do we have here that doesn't have a solid structure? Okay, it's Neptune, take that. We don't need that, right? We can deconstruct that, but we are keeping the essential fundamentals here. We are keeping what we have discovered is true for me. We're keeping the connections to the inner fire that are real and that are solid, and we're going to strengthen them actually between now and 2028. And this new moon is right beside Chiron, like I was telling you. And we not only have Neptune and Saturn in Aries, we also have Mercury and Mars. And in fact, all 4 of them, Neptune, Mercury, Mars, and Saturn, are all together within 5 degrees of each other. So in order for this solidification that Saturn wants to do to happen, what this new moon is asking us, is to be so real. Is to be so honest and real with ourselves. And just like re-examining your journey up until now. And if you're able to think back 16 years ago, and where were you and what started changing, and like how far you've come, especially then in the past 8 years. And then there would have been another peak time in between 2023 and 2024, because we were having eclipses in Aries and in Libra. And those eclipses also were significant, like illuminating moments. They were significant seeds for, again, very long cycles into the future, because eclipses have this 9-year and 18-year cycles. So yeah, we're kind of like in the middle of a very important, determining time that will set the foundations for a lot in our life from now onward. And the connections between the planets are signaling to, if there was anything that you still are keeping yourself trapped in, like if there's any like external societal expectation that you have limited yourself for, or that you have like shoved your true fire down or in because of, you know what I mean? Like if there's something that has neutralized your fire, mainly expectations from other people, or just like beliefs that we have about how we should be, or why our truth is somehow flawed or wrong, or why our identity is unacceptable, or our desires are like not, this is not okay. And I mean, there are grounds for what is right and what is not. I'm talking about identity, right? I'm talking about my reason to be alive. I'm not talking about some distorted thoughts or just like perverted desires. I'm not talking about you go do and be a pervert despite what people think. No, it's not. I'm not talking about that. When you were born and you had 0 days on earth, that soul wanted something from life. So much so that you came to life. Right? That's not random. And it's certainly not evil. At least in what I believe. At least the way I see the world. I believe in people's hearts. And I think that our lifetime, just like, and our upbringing, and there's just so much shit that like we get thrown on, and we get lost. We get lost, we get confused, we get like hurt, and we develop all this like layers of psychological debris, that and we bring also from the past, but the original desire to live, I just could not see it as something evil at all. It doesn't fit in my brain that a soul would want to incarnate, and for evil purposes. I might be wrong, but I don't think that that's possible. And that is also something for you to think about. Like, do you think there's something wrong with you? You think there's something wrong with like your dream, or that there's something too selfish about it? Some people need to learn to be more selfish. Some people are just so Libra and so Pisces or so Cancer, that you just like, you need to learn to just stop putting everybody else, making everybody else happy. You got to start making yourself happy. Okay, so a few final reflection questions for you for this new moon. Remember, it's tomorrow morning, so you can if you want to do a little new moon ritual, and if not, like, honestly, I don't always. I just, more than anything, I like to observe what is happening. And I kind of like just take in the moment however it's given to me. Other times I will do intentional rituals, but I don't think it's necessary. But if you want to have some reflection questions here, what have you learned that is true to you, especially in the past 3 years or so? But as we've talked about, this is definitely a longer process, right? But especially since the eclipses, which were 2023, 2024, in Aries and in Libra, what has become really evident to you that is aligned with your true desire to live? What have you learned? What have you learned that you yourself have been afraid to do because you're afraid, or you've been afraid of what other people will look at that as, like what they will say about that, or what they will tell you if you did X, Y, or Z. So what are those limitations? And do you think there is anything like intrinsically wrong with you? Like, is there an insecurity so big that makes you think like, no, I'm just not fit for that. I'm just not able to do that. It's not for me. And yet you want it. Yet you really, really, really want that. So first, like, become aware of what that is. Second, become aware of what limitations are there. And once you have that, what do you need? Like, do you need maybe to get away from the noise a bit and gain some clarity, like fix your compass type of thing? Is that it? Or do you just need to make a decision? Is it a decision that you're afraid to make, or a step that you're afraid to make? Well, if that's the case, if you notice the fear or the insecurity, remember that Aries medicine is courage, connection to the heart, and connection to your primal energy, to your inner fire, which is just undeniable. Wherever there is indecision, there is a lack of connection to that fire, because that fire is clear as day. There isn't options there. It's like there is this truth that lives within you. You just need to uncover it. A lot of the times it's hidden under insecurities and fears, which are all not true. And you know what? Why isn't that not true? Because if you were born with this desire, then it's like that, just like, why would you not live that which you want if you were born with it? It's like, it's your fundamental essence. Like, what the heck? Why are you tampering it? Why are you hiding it? Are you even at this point? We've gone through such an extensive, long process through Aries, that do you still, or do you no longer? Are you no longer afraid? And if that is the case, which is dope, then this new moon might be the time when all the things start to take shape much more concretely, and so I'm really excited for you about that. So anyways, we've reached the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed this, and yeah, leave me any comments, send me messages if you want, and happy new moon in Aries. Bye for now. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. If you liked the podcast, please give me a like, give me a follow. I really appreciate your support on social media. You can subscribe to my newsletter. And if you want to see everything that I have to offer, you can head over to my website, creativeastrology.com, where you will find my individual reading offerings. I also do group readings. I work with businesses doing team building activities as well. And I also have some art prints in store and a digital calendar with a guide that you can purchase at my website. I really sincerely appreciate you being here. Thank you for being a part of this and allowing me to do things that I love. Much love to you all, and we'll see you or hear you next time.